Thanks, everyone. Good evening, and thank you for being here. My name is Mark Heisted, and I'm a brain scientist. I'm at NIH, but I'm here as a citizen. We stand here today at a moment of the greatest assault in our lifetimes on our freedoms. The U.S. Constitution is being shredded. This administration, the White House, is lawlessly ignoring the Constitution, and the Supreme Court is lawlessly signing off on it. We are here today to call on Congress to stand up and stop it. Our coalition of civil servants delivered a letter to Congress this week with the same message we bring today. Based on reporting, things inside the government are far worse than are widely appreciated. We call on Congress today to pass measures that rein in Trump's lawlessness and protect the American people. More than 2,000 federal workers and thousands of allies have bravely signed that letter, many of them risking their careers to do so. You will hear from some of them today. We see this Trump lawlessness in the mass firings, the rifts in the spring. Tens of thousands of employees across the government were fired, 10,000 in the health agency, HHS. These mass firings harmed all Americans. They hurt people getting medical care, those who want safe drugs, safe air and water. The firings destroyed cancer research and development of cures. And these mass firings were illegal, lawless, as the district judge found. Yet the Supreme Court let them stand. The president took lawless action, and the Supreme Court signed off. My father is a history teacher. He taught his students, and me, these basic principles of the Constitution. But there are three branches. The Article 1 branch, Congress. The Article 2 branch, the president and executive. And the Article 3 branch, the judiciary. When the Article 2 branch is ignoring the law and the Article 3 branch is lawlessly signing off, the way out, perhaps the only way, is for Congress, intended as the most powerful branch, intended to serve as the voice of the people, to stand up and assert its power. This past Friday night, the conservative Supreme Court majority showed their complete lawlessness. On their shadow docket, the court shredded perhaps the most important part of our Constitution. One of the most basic principles of the Anglo-American political order, dating back centuries, is that Congress, the legislature, has the power of the purse, the power to determine spending. Trump, with Russell Vogt, the Project 2025 lead, now inside the White House, has been taking this power, seizing this power from Congress, and ignoring the Constitution. And late Friday night, as if to hide from public attention, the Supreme Court handed down a ridiculous order that signed off on this lawlessness. There have been threats from Trump that more civil servants will be fired this week, but they already claim the right to lawlessly fire workers. From here, those threats look like a sign of fear. The administration is afraid of Congress standing up. They know that Congress has the power to stop them. They know that the people have the power to stop them. I want to take a second to speak from my expertise as a scientist. American science, the gold standard and world-leading science and information innovation enterprise, is being destroyed. I've talked to scientists around the world who cannot believe that, as a news story said, a scientific superpower is destroying itself. I'll talk about medical research. Last week, headlines read, "Trump is canceling the war on cancer." That is right. Cancer cures for you, for your parents, for the American people, for everyone, are being destroyed. It is happening for other kinds of research too. Alzheimer's research, addiction research, pain research, infectious disease research on diseases from AIDS to Ebola to antibiotic-resistant bacteria. All of this research, all of these potential cures are being blown up in the governments and at universities in all 50 states. Every American should know this, and everyone touched by cancer should know this. A flat budget, a normal budget, is not enough. NIH saw a flat budget this year, NSF saw a flat budget this year, and yet science across the country is still being destroyed by lawless presidential interference. The same is true for immigrants, for the economy, for hospital and health care. The administration is acting lawlessly to harm them. This week in budget negotiations, Congress has a rare moment of leverage to check Trump's executive overreach, and it must stand up and do so. I'm here today at risk. We are all here today at risk to ourselves and our families. There is a risk of lawless retaliation, but I know that all of us here today, have free speech rights to be here and to say this.
Yes.
I and all civil servants have the First Amendment right to speak in our personal capacities about matters of public concern, and this is the utmost matter of public concern. The U.S. Constitution is being shredded by this administration. It must stop. Congress must stand up and stop it. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Thank you for listening. Our next speaker has been a champion for both federal workers and the American public. You've heard his powerful commitment, refusing to give a blank check to this lawless president. He has been very outspoken, and we are grateful for his courage and his support for the American people. Please welcome Senator Chris Van Hollen.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark. Thank you. Thank you, Mark. I want to start by thanking you and all these amazing, dedicated federal employees. Let's give it up for all the federal employees here. These are true patriots. These are the people who deliver important services to the American people every day. They're the people who care for our veterans. They're the people who help develop treatments and cures to diseases. They're the people who help keep our food supply safe. They're the people who respond in cases of national emergency. The list goes on and on. So thank all of you for what you do for the American people, and thank you for being here to express your views, because as much as they like to do the work of the American people, they recognize that the people who will lose the most in a government shutdown are people all over America who are going to lose the benefit of their good work. I just met last week with a man from Atlanta, Georgia, who'd been part of one of the clinical trials that had been disrupted. And for a little while, his life was put at risk. He was able to get back in, but he told me the story of a woman who'd been part of his clinical trial who, while it was being disrupted because of actions of the Trump administration, developed complications that disqualified her from continuing to be in that clinical trial on cancer. She's in hospice right now. So what the Trump administration's been doing to date has real consequences. They have disregarded and disrespected and gone after hardworking federal employees. And they've done it from day one. Elon Musk said he was going to take a chainsaw to important federal services. He went after federal employees at Social Security Administration, Medicare, NIH, Department of Education, across the government. And so I think the point Mark made needs to be emphasized, which is this lawless behavior has been ongoing since day one of the Trump administration. They have been shutting down the parts of the government that they don't like and beefing up the parts of the government that they want to focus on. So this has been going on since day one. Now here we are, and Donald Trump is asking for a blank check from all of us to continue this lawless activity. And this is a moment for members of Congress to say, no, a lawless president does not get a blank check. So none of us want to see the government shut down. Apparently, Donald Trump's position is if he doesn't get a blank check, he will shut the government down. That's what he is saying. We have presented an alternative. The Democrats in the Senate have presented an alternative to keep the federal government open. But it does include guardrails and safeguards to protect us against the illegal withholding of funds that have been put forward by the Congress through the constitutional process, and to put up other safeguards. It also turns off the ticking time bomb that Republicans left in place on Americans' health care. Because at the end of this year, if we don't defuse that bomb, people are going to see their health care premiums go up in the Affordable Care Act exchanges. 4 million Americans will lose health care altogether. Notices will start to go out in October, next week. And so we want to keep the government open, but we want guardrails and safeguards, and we want to make sure we turn off this ticking time bomb. That's what we want. And when Russ Vought, who, as we all know, infamously said that his goal was to inflict trauma on federal employees, when he threatens to use a shutdown to fire more federal employees, I think we all understand that a shutdown gives this administration no more power to do that than they do today. Today, they are engaged in lawless activities. In fact, there are very good arguments to say legally that it's more difficult for them to accomplish those goals during a shutdown. They certainly should not be accepted activities in a shutdown, but we are dealing with a lawless administration. But the point is, they've been doing this from day one. We cannot be complicit in this ongoing assault on federal employees and ongoing assault on the American people, because these great patriotic Americans work for the American people. So when Donald Trump goes after them, he's going after the American public. That's what's happening here. We're here to say no more blank check. We need to make sure that what we do here in this Congress really does reflect the will of the American people. And so thank all of you for being here. Thank all the federal employees for exercising your First Amendment rights, which they're also trying to destroy. But we will persevere, because what they want us to do is shut up and go away. And all of you are here to say, no, you're not going to shut up and you're not going to go away. You're going to stand up for the Constitution. We're going to do what's right. Thank you all for being here. And now let me bring up a great partner of mine from Maryland in the United States Senate, somebody who's been working very hard to protect federal employees, protect the important services they provide to the American people, and protect our health care. That is Angela Alsobrooks.
Good afternoon. Privileged to be here with the senior senator from the state of Maryland, my great partner, Chris Van Hollen. And I am especially proud to stand today with our federal employees. I'm reminded during a time like this, I think about my grandmother. Her name was Sarah Daisy, and she was a very, very proud federal employee. And in fact, she wanted so much to be a federal employee. She at one point was a housekeeper. I worked in hotels in and around D.C., but my father told me that it was her dream to work in the federal government. And in those days, it required a civil servant's exam and a typing test. And my grandmother couldn't afford a typewriter and didn't know how to type. And so he told me that she put a white piece of paper, taped it on the refrigerator in their kitchen in their one-bedroom apartment, and stood every evening after her shift working as a housekeeper, stood in front of the refrigerator, taught herself the keystrokes to take that typing test until she passed her exam and got herself a job in the federal government. Now, Sarah Daisy, like so many other federal employees, represents, in my opinion, the best of our country. The patriots who come to work every single day, like the ones I stand today with, the ones I've had the chance to meet over the last several months, and the men and women who work inside our government have shown up, and they don't care who the president is. They are there to serve the American people. They have served Republican presidents, they have served Democratic presidents, but they are there nonetheless because they show up every day under all kinds of circumstances to represent the American people. And those are the very individuals that this administration has chosen to target. The witch hunt against federal employees in this country is a stain that will stick to our country for generations to come. I know them well because they are my constituents. It is the case that quite literally, Maryland is the proud home to the largest share of federal employees in the country. And it is my great privilege to represent them. And how sad and disgusting it has been, as you've heard Senator Van Hollen say, that it's been the aim of this administration from day one. They have a plan, and they are acting out the plan. You heard Russell Vought say he wanted federal employees to feel so traumatized that they would not want to come to work each day. And I want us to all be clear what this is all about. It is about attacking our federal employees, but it is also that Donald Trump cares less and could care less, not only about hardworking Americans, but about the middle class and the working class in this country. And it is right now what the audacity of him right now, the Jedi mind trick, to pretend after they have the keys to the kingdom, to the House, to the Senate. They control the White House. And right now, they bear responsibility for a shutdown. If it occurs, it will occur on his watch and at the behest of the people who right now have control of the House, of the Senate, and of the White House. And why is this? We all understand why it is, but I can tell you what is not happening. All of the lies that have been told, the lie that includes the fact that they would somehow bring down the cost of groceries. They said they would bring down the cost of living, that the cost of goods would become more affordable, that they would bring down the cost of housing. None of this has happened. But instead what has happened is that he has more and more taken away the lives and livelihood of Americans, and this is yet another effort to do that. So I stand with our federal employees. We are here to stand together to also insist that this whole process of taking away insurance from Americans, that we will no longer allow this to happen. We've seen already the cuts to Medicaid that will take effect. As you've heard Senator Van Hollen say, beginning next week, Americans can expect to receive notices that will indicate that their insurance premiums will go up as far as 20%. And so this attack on the American people really has to stop. And I am standing again with all of our federal employees. It's the reason that I have introduced legislation along with my colleague, Congresswoman Sarah Elfreth. I introduced the Help Feds Act, which would ensure that federal workers don't have to worry about being compensated for their work. It would compel the states to provide unemployment compensation benefits to federal employees during a government shutdown. I believe, yes, our federal employees deserve so much better than they've gotten. Our essential workers have proven how important they are to all of us, and they should not have to suffer because of an administration that cannot get out of their own way. So I'll keep fighting for you, and I ask that all of you keep fighting too, and we will win. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Senator Alsobrooks, and thank you, Senator Van Hollen. Thank you for standing up and fighting with us. We are proud to stand with you. The next speaker is Charlotte Slyman from the FTC, here in her personal capacity. Charlotte.
Thank you. I'm Charlotte Slayman. I'm a proud union member with NTEU, Chapter 344, an organizer with the Federal Unionist Network, and I'm an antitrust lawyer at the Federal Trade Commission. I have been a federal worker for 5 years and served under 3 presidents. I came to the FTC to fight for American consumers and workers, not to do favors for the president's billionaire friends. These attacks on federal workers are attacks on my community, my family members, my friends, my neighbors. We have all had our lives turned upside down by this administration, by Russell Vought's purposeful attempt to traumatize those of us who have committed our careers to public service. Vaught and his ilk think corporate greed is a virtue and public service is a vice, worthy of ridicule and cruelty. For the last 9 months, the Trump administration has created a crisis for the federal government that is far worse than any shutdown. Still, when I saw the OMB memo threatening to fire more federal workers if Congress didn't agree to their budget, I was scared. I talked with my strong community of federal workers. We realized Donald Trump and Russell Vought want us to be scared. And wait a minute. We're supposed to believe that if Congress votes for their poison pill budget, they will suddenly start using our government agencies properly to advance the interests of the American people instead of their own, that they'll keep up their lawlessness only if they can't get the votes to pass their budget. This is just a political stunt, and we're not buying it. This crisis of our federal government, the crisis that began almost immediately on January 20th, is taking a terrible toll on our public servants. But more importantly, it's taking a terrible toll on the American people and the American economy and the rule of law. Vital government programs cannot run properly with a skeleton crew. At my agency, corporate lawbreakers are learning that they can get away with illegal conduct we would never have let slide in the past. We don't have the staff to bring as many lawsuits as we did before. Last week, the Trump FTC announced that instead of fighting, it's settling a huge case against Amazon for tricking people into paying them for a service they didn't want. Amazon is paying what is basically a rounding error, and now the American people won't see the evidence against it at trial. And those few staff hours that are left are being misused to go after the president's political enemies and protect his friends. Instead of blocking actual harmful corporate consolidation, the FTC started investigating Media Matters, a nonprofit that criticized Elon Musk. The FTC's subpoena was blocked by a federal court, which recognized that the action violated free speech. Here's what the judge had to say about this lawless abuse of government power. It should alarm all Americans when the government retaliates against individuals or organizations for engaging in constitutionally protected public debate. The lawlessness must be stopped. I am asking Congress, do not approve this in my name. Do not accede to the president's demands to save my paychecks. I'm a federal worker, and I choose democracy. I choose the rule of law. I choose science and healthcare and corporate accountability. Do not give up for us. Fight for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlotte. That was amazing. Our next speaker is Kaya Chatterjee, the amazing founder and executive director of Free DC, the movement that is rising in the District of Columbia to defend against Trump lawlessness.
Hi, everyone. Again, my name is Kaya Chatterjee. I am the executive director of Free DC, and we are here experiencing in DC just straight lawlessness. DC is right now one of 5 U.S. cities that is being threatened by a military occupation, and we are under current military occupation. What this looks like is really jarring for our communities. So what this looks like is there are gangs of federal agents. Sometimes they're masked. Sometimes they're on unlabeled cars. They're jumping people in the streets. They are ignoring our rights under the 4th Amendment of the Constitution. They are not following due process. And they are just tormenting our communities. Our children are witnessing this. It's happening in front of our schools. It's happening in our parks. It's happening at soccer games. And on top of that, we have the presence of the National Guard here from 6 different states. They've come here, and they're carrying these long rifles around, and they're normalizing the presence of the military in the capital of this country. And when there were people who just a few blocks away at Union Station said to Stephen Miller and Pete Hegseth, free DC, that's what we want, a free DC. What Stephen Miller said was, because you are expressing that dissent to me, I'm going to make sure there's more military presence here. Who elected Stephen Miller? Who elected Stephen Miller to say he's going to occupy our city? Who elected Stephen Miller to say he's going to occupy 5 American cities? What we are, and then we read in the Washington Post that Stephen Miller says that the National Guard is going to be here through the end of 2026. Well, what happens at the end of 2026? It's the midterm elections. So they're showing their cards right now. They are doing this to attack. They are attacking DC on so many fronts, and they're doing it to prevent a transfer of power. They tried to prevent a transfer of power on January 6th. And if we in D.C. had controlled our National Guard, we might have been able to prevent that sooner on January 6th. Now they are trying to prevent the transfer of power again. And they're doing it on so many fronts. So yes, they're doing it by having a military presence and occupation of our city. They are also doing it by these 16 bills that are attacking D.C. and more than a dozen riders on the budget. We are not a bargaining chip in a budget negotiation process. This is the capital of the country, and we have communities, we have children. I have a kid in a DC public school that has to watch these armed guards walking around. We are not a negotiating chip. And so we have literally the U.S. military attacking us. We have Congress attacking us. We have people who are voting for bills to attack D.C. Mostly these are all bills that are originated by the Republican Party. Unfortunately, we have some Democrats falling for their tricks and voting for these bills in the House. So we have an attack. In D.C. We're attacked by Congress. We're attacked by the military. We're attacked by the most powerful people in the White House. And yet here we are. Here we are. We are so. Every time they attack us, we grow. Every time they attack us, Free DC is only bigger. And we have a court case coming up. Our Attorney General brought forward a case making it clear that it is illegal, actually, for the National Guard to be deployed in our community. It is obviously illegal under the Posse Comitatus Act to have active military in cities all over this country. Today it is 5. Tomorrow it will be 50 if we do not stand up for our rights and take a stand. And so that is what fundamentally we are here to talk about, because they're pretending they're in D.C. because for our public safety. But let me tell you, people who care about public safety in D.C., they reverse mass firings. They make sure people have health care, and they make sure people have access to food. And that is fundamentally why we stand here aligned today, and that's why we ask you all to stand with us for a Free D.C. Free D.C.!
Thank you, Kea. Our next speaker is Representative Glenn Ivey. Thank you, Representative.
Thank you.
Representative Ivey has been laser focused on protecting the rule of law and has been a powerful force against the Trump administration lawlessness. We're very happy to have you here today.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me today. Let's hear it for Free DC. Doing great work. We had a press conference over on the Triangle in front of the Capitol, what was that, 2 weeks ago, I think it was, to fight the lawlessness of the Trump administration. They were bringing out all these National Guard guys. I was downtown a few weeks ago. They had M4 rifles. M4 rifles. They're powerful and accurate at 800 yards. And these guys are walking down in front of a restaurant. And I was like, well, geez, even if they hit the right guy, the bullet's going to keep going and take out some innocent civilians. Do we really need this on our streets? No. Absolutely not. And by the way, is it just a coincidence that you keep sending these military guys to blue cities with black mayors, even though the mass shooters are coming from red states? Let's get it right. Focus on the cities where crime's going up, not places like D.C. where crime's going down, because they're doing it the right way. Keep up the great work. And to my government employee friends, we're going to keep fighting for you, no question about it. My father was a federal government employee. I've worked for the federal government myself. I know the outstanding work that's done day in and day out by federal government employees, and it has been going for decades. Forcing people out, even though they've been doing great work, is unfair, and it's terrible for the American people. I was talking to one woman in my district. She had a PhD in neurobiology, and she was doing clinical trial work on Alzheimer's disease. And they just shut it down. They just shut it down. Now, a clinical trial doesn't work like a light switch, where you stop it, you can start it back up another day. This is one where you're going to have to start over from the beginning. And some of these work that they've been doing is going to take years to get back to where we are now. Pediatric cancer. Remember that thing he did, the fake State of the Union Trump did in the Capitol a few months ago? He acted like it was a State of the Union address, and there was a young black kid up there that he called up, and he'd survived cancer. Remember that? And they gave him a little star for Secret Service. The next day, they cut clinical trials for pediatric cancer. That's who these guys are. So when they say, oh, man, if you guys go forward with the shutdown, we might have to fire more government employees, as if they weren't trying to fire them as fast as they could already. Are you serious? You're self-control from the Trump administration? No way. We know we've got to do it ourselves because they can't stop themselves. That's why we're standing out here today, fighting today on all of these issues to make sure that we fight, we win if we stick together. Take care. Keep up the great work. God bless.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Helen from the Department of Labor, here in her personal capacity.
Hi, everyone. This shirt is a message for Russell Vote. My name is Helen Lurie. Until this April, I was a proud employee of the U.S. Department of Labor, and I am still a proud member of the Federal Unionist Network, like Charlotte. Before I talk about the Department of Labor, I want to mention an experience I had last week. I was at a training about democratic backsliding, and the trainers presented a slide on the characteristics of authoritarian regimes. Those characteristics were, number 1, the autocrat directs investigations against critics. Number 2, he gives license to law-breaking. Number 3, he engages in regulatory retaliation. Number 4, he deploys the military domestically. Is this starting to sound familiar? Number 5, there's federal law enforcement overreach. And number 6, the autocrat refuses to leave. And I could easily think of examples from just the previous few weeks of all of these things that Donald Trump had done. So it struck me all of a sudden that there's no question about whether authoritarianism is here. It's here. We're in it. And we have to be clear-eyed about that, I think, to move forward. It doesn't mean that all hope is lost. Because while Trump controls the White House and his faction controls the Supreme Court, Democrats in Congress still have power. They can act, and they must act. Trump desperately needs approval for his budget from Congress. So our demand and our plea to Democrats in Congress is, do not give it to him. Do not give it to him unless you can get meaningful protections for American civil liberties and the federal programs that so many millions rely on. Your votes on this budget are the one tool you have right now. Please use it. I'll speak for a minute about what's been happening at the Department of Labor since January because there are a lot of workers in the U.S. and this affects all of them, or anyone who could be a worker. Under Trump and his Secretary of Unfair Labor Practices, Lori Chavez DeRemer, it's nothing short of a war on American workers. First, 1/5 of DOL is gone. That means fewer people to inspect unsafe work sites and protect workers from wage theft, a crime that takes $50 billion out of workers' pockets every year. That's billion with a B. Second, Trump has squashed measures that were supposed to protect workers, including minors, who he claims to care about so much, from death and illness. You've heard of black lung, right? Well, their motto should be, make black lung great again. Third, programs that train young people, women, and seniors for good-paying jobs, they're gone. Fourth, programs that had been making progress toward ending child labor and human trafficking, they're all gone. And fifth, the Trump regime is even attacking basic economic data. He literally fired the commissioner of the Bureau of Labor Statistics because he didn't like the jobs numbers, as if it's her fault and not the fault of his own policies. The worst part of all this is I don't even think DOL has it the worst out of all government agencies. Something that really troubles me is lawless Kristi Noem taking staff away from FEMA in the middle of hurricane season after a summer when floods killed dozens of children in Texas. Shame. Something else that bothers me just happened today at the Department of Housing and Urban Development when Secretary Scott Turner fired one whistleblower and put another one on admin leave in a completely illegal move. That kind of short-sightedness is criminal, and that's why we need Democrats in Congress to act. They have an opportunity to put a stop. You have an opportunity to put a stop to some of Trump's worst behavior, if you take it, which I desperately hope you do. So I'll close with this message. Democrats, Americans want to see you fighting for them. They want to see you go toe-to-toe with the bully. Please don't mess this up. Fight for us. Fight for America. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. Our next speaker is Jenna Norton from NIH. Jenna is a program officer who will talk to us about the destruction of medical research, health, and cures. Jenna was one of the co-organizers of the Bethesda Declaration, which was one of the first public letters by civil servants sounding the alarm about the damage to our government. Jenna.
Thanks, Mark. So, as Mark said, my name is Jenna Norton. I'm a scientist and program officer at the National Institutes of Health, but I'm not here to speak in that role today. Theodore Roosevelt said, "Patriotism means to stand by the country. It does not mean to stand by the president." Woo! With those words in mind, I am here today to speak as an American patriot, to stand up for a country against an administration that is harming the American people. The Trump administration is destroying our fundamental American right to free speech. They are setting fire to the First Amendment of the Constitution by punishing FEMA and EPA and, as of today, HUD staff for speaking up. They are weaponizing the Justice Department, and they're even trying to get Jimmy Kimmel kicked off the air. I know speaking today comes with risks, and I am a little afraid, but democracy demands courage. So despite the risk, I am standing firm in my right as a federal employee to speak freely on the matters of public interest. I am exercising my right to free speech because I know the risk will only grow. I am exercising my right to free speech because I want my kids to grow up in a country where they can speak freely. That's right. And I am exercising my right to free speech because I believe it is critical that people understand what is happening inside the National Institutes of Health. I loved my job at NIH. I had the honor of helping new scientists launch their careers and spotlighting promising scientific ideas. But all of this changed abruptly in January. Current Trump administration policies, including firing critical staff, artificially cutting the NIH budget, censoring free thought, and prioritizing politics over science, make it nearly impossible for NIH staff to do our jobs, to conduct and support life-saving research. Instead of identifying new research opportunities, we now scan grants for banned words. Instead of supporting research that saves lives, we now risk the lives of research participants by cutting off their trials midstream. Instead of being responsible stewards of taxpayer money, we are throwing research investments away. When you stop a $5 million study 4 years in, you don't save $1 million, you throw away $4 million. When we cannot do our jobs at the National Institutes of Health, the consequence is dire. Americans get sick and die. We federal workers are struggling to address the wrongs from inside the executive branch. Our grantees have tried to address these harms through the courts, but a Supreme Court firmly in Trump's pocket has repeatedly greenlighted Trump's lawlessness. Congress is the only remaining chance we have to stop the gutting of public services Americans depend on. This continuing resolution is a chance for Congress to do exactly that. And Donald Trump knows it. Last week, Trump and his OMB chief, Russell Vought, tried to bully Congress into passing a budget deal that is bad for the American people by threatening to fire federal workers like me. As a federal worker, I am here to tell you that every awful thing that would happen in a shutdown, shuttering programs that Americans rely on, damaging our economy, firing federal workers, all of this is already happening. As a federal worker, I am also here to tell you that I will not ask the American people to sacrifice to protect my job. I will not allow him to use me to hold the American people hostage, and I will not be Trump's political pawn. Yes! Giving Trump another blank check will not protect Americans. It did not work in March, and it will not work now. So I urge senators, only vote for a continuing resolution if it protects the American people the services they rely on, and the federal workers who provide those services, even if that means a shutdown. We need Congress to stand up and fight for the American people. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenna. We have 3 more speakers. The next speaker is Representative Ivey Ramirez. Americans in her district have been harmed by Trump's lawless attacks on the Chicago area. The representative is the daughter of undocumented immigrants from Guatemala, and she now sits in a seat in Congress. Hers is the consummate American story of hard work and success. We are grateful for her strong and clear voice. Please join me in welcoming the representative.
We're back. And every single member of Congress should be here doing their job. Look, I want to say this. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the willingness and ability to still do despite of the fear. And that is why we're here today. We are very clear that Republicans want us to be uninsured. They want us to be unhoused, and clearly they want the American people to be unemployed. Over the last 9 months, Trump and Republicans in Congress have been clear about their priorities and the pain that they're willing to inflict on the American people. They've cut our health care instead of expanding it when we know that we actually need a better, more expanded Medicaid system, not one cut. They have shut down hospitals. They've laid us off. They're stealing your bargaining rights. They're snatching our loved ones off the street, driving our costs up. And I'm walking into stores and restaurants that are telling me that they're already seeing a 20-30% reduction in patrons coming into their business and in profit. This is the golden age that Donald Trump is giving to this country right now. Despicable, disgusting, lawless, and cruel. And I want to make sure that you know this, that as long as I am breathing and a United States member of Congress, I will not fund authoritarianism. I will not support fascism. And I will not be voting for any continuing resolution that will allow Donald Trump and these Republicans to continue to take away from the people, steal from the people, kill the people. Because this is a moment where you are asking members of Congress, you are asking elected officials, which side are you on? Are you on the side of the people? Are you on the side of our children? Are you on the side of our communities? Or are you going to continue to bend the knee to a wannabe king? Which one is it? We have to make sure that our working families are centered and we support a budget or resolution that actually restores health care, that actually restores funding for our communities. That instead of giving $150 billion to Secretary Noem to terrorize communities, we're giving money for health care, for housing, for research, for science, for education. And so let me say this. Working families in this country deserve better. They demand better. They demand more of us. So whether you're a Republican or Democrat, let me say this loud and clear. This is a time to be doing more, not less. This is a time for Democrats not to see ourselves in the minority, but the opposition party to fascism. We have to stop the lawless impoundment of congressionally appropriated funds and return funding to essential programs. We have to make sure that we're protecting civil liberties and reins in the force of terror that is ICE right now. I cannot go online. I can't talk to my constituents. I can't talk to my local electeds without talking about the fear that people are living in this moment. People who are afraid of their lives in this moment. Children who are talking about committing suicide out of fear of what will happen to their parents in this moment. And it is why the Senate, it is why the House has to choose. Whose side are we on? Whose side are we on? Are we on the side of the people? Are we going to fight for the people? Are we going to fight for our democracy? Yes. Are we going to fight for our civil liberties? Yes. Are we going to fight for health care? Yes. Are we going to grow a spine? Yes. Are we going to make sure that the senators grow a spine that need to grow a spine? Yes. So listen, I came back because I understand what's on the line. I pay for my mother's health care because she got knocked off of Medicaid last year because my parents happened to own their home after working 40 years in this country. I know how broken the systems are and that we should be reforming them, not cutting them. And so let me be very clear. In the face of authoritarianism and fascism, it is worker solidarity that is going to protect us and get us through this. It is worker solidarity that is going to protect us from a regime that is looking to rob our services, our lands, our health care, our jobs, and our thriving futures. And know this, remind yourself and others of this, that fascism always requires an enemy. We know that today Trump and Noam and the administration have made immigrants the enemy. They have made activists and organizers the enemies. They have made democratic cities the enemy. They have made federal workers the enemy. But if we let them continue to violate our rights, if we let them continue consolidating power and abusing the military, we know that their next targets will be anyone they deem undesirable or a threat to fascism. So what are we going to do? We are going to organize. We're going to agitate. We are going to have courage even when we're fearful. And we're going to mobilize to say that we are holding the line. We've learned from what happened in March, and we cannot let that happen ever again. So as far as I'm here, Delia Catalina Ramirez from Illinois 3, I am ready to hold the line. And if Republicans shut it down, they decided to shut down this country for the American people. Because I'm ready to vote for a budget that restores health care, that restores funding for housing, for research, for science, and for the American people. Let's go past that spending budget tomorrow. Thank you, everyone. Let's keep organizing.
Let's take a breath, everyone. Thank you. Thank you so much. Our next speaker is Alexis from CFPB.
Hi, everyone. My name's Alexis Goldstein. I'm a rank and file member of NTEU 335. That is the union of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. If you're not familiar with our work, it's okay. We're a little bit young. We're younger than Pinterest. But we are the agency if your bank or your financial firm steals your money, we're the ones who fight to get it back. And it's not just that. We don't cost the public a single penny, but we have returned $21 billion to Americans in the course of our very short life. We were also the second agency targeted for shutdown by DOJ and Russell Vogt. We tried to learn from what happened to our friends at USAID. We organized, we fought back. The admin retaliated against us. They made everyone else go back to the office 5 days a week, but they banned us from our headquarters. They canceled the leases at our regional offices across the country. Even Russell Vought sent us an email saying we needed to immediately cancel all of our affinity groups and end all DEIA coping sessions. They didn't define what a coping session is, so I'm not really sure what that is, other than what Russell Vought does every time he loses in court. But they tried to shut us down entirely on February 13th. They tried to RIP CFPB. But an emergency court order saved us, but we are not just fighting in court. Our union has never stopped organizing on behalf of our workers. We've led pickets. We've held consistent town halls to inform people about what's going on. We've organized solidarity funds. And you know what we're supposed to do? The thing that Congress gave us the job to do after the 2008 financial crisis is to watch over the nation's biggest banks and make sure there's not another 2008 financial crisis. And it has been publicly reported we are not doing our job. Our bank examiners who watch the biggest banks are not on site. They are not watching the banks. We are not allowed to do our jobs. No one is watching them. The CFPB has dropped 22 lawsuits against major corporations since this administration took over, including Zelle, including Capital One. And U.S. News and World Report's estimated there's $3 billion that should be going out to consumers right now that is not going out because the CFPB is frozen. What we don't want to do is repeat the mistakes of March. Let me give you one other example of when Congress did not fight back. When Elon Musk tweeted RIP CFPB, the cryptocurrency industry cheered. The CEO of Coinbase, Brian Armstrong, quote tweeted it and said, "This is fantastic, absolutely the right decision." So why is it that even with a frozen CFPB, several Democrats voted to advance cryptocurrency legislation anyway? This is not the way. This is kicking the sand in the face of every American that relies on the CFPB to not get their faces ripped off by their financial companies, by financial fraudsters and thieves. This admin is really good at doing bad and very bad at doing good. But I don't think that we should let democracy die because of a cringe guy named Russell. Like, that's kind of embarrassing if we let that happen. So I'm here to stand in solidarity with my fellow workers. I'm also a member of the Federal Unionist Network, and I'm here to stand up for the public that we serve. And to our elected officials, I think the message is resoundingly clear, but we want you to fight back. The way you stand up to a bully is not to cave to the bully. The way you stand up to the bully is to say no to the bully. So if you say no, we will have your backs. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexis. Our next speaker is from Stand Up for Science.
Hi, everyone. My name is Laura Campbell, and I'm here to talk to you from Stand Up for Science. So my words are about how awesome science is, and thank you to all of these federal employees for all of the work that they do every day. So American science has driven progress for over a century. The light bulb, the internet, landing on the moon, cutting cancer mortality by a third, thank you, the Hubble Space Telescope, kidney transplants, and almost every technology in your smartphone. These are just some examples of breakthroughs that happened because our federal government chose to invest in an American scientific ecosystem that valued and promoted the freedom to ask questions and pursue truth without political interference or influence. So that was great. Unfortunately, that freedom is under attack. Science is being politicized, stifled, and held hostage by partisan political schemes. There is no nicer word for it. When words are banned, when areas of study are restricted, and institutions are punished for dissent, it is not just science that is in jeopardy. It is obviously, as everyone has said, it is our very democracy. Yeah. The freedom to explore, debate, and question is what separates democracy from authoritarianism, friends. The ongoing weakening of scientific rigor in decision-making, the rolling back of decades of public investment in scientific progress, as well as the silencing and sidelining of experts is chipping away at the very bedrock of our democracy. Not to mention leaving everyone more vulnerable to natural disasters, to pollution, to pandemics, and many other kinds of preventable death that our government, that our public scientists work to prevent. It's for us, right? Since January 20th, civil servants, including some of the nation's most prominent, productive, and passionate scientists, have honorably upheld their duty to the American people, to all of us, often under immense political pressure and threat of retaliation. Thanks, y'all. Stand Up for Science stands with all federal workers, and we will continue to defend science and the public servants who continue to carry it forward. We urge Congress to defend federal workers, protect our public institutions, and restore, for goodness sake, the checks and balances that keep Americans healthy, safe, and free. Democracy cannot survive when the truth is discarded, evidence is ignored, and lives are endangered just for political gain. Thank you. Thank you, Mark.
That was great. Our final speaker is Kimberly Conklin.
Hi, my name is Kimberly Conkle, and I was raised in rural Arizona. I'm the daughter of a fireman father and a public school teacher mother. They taught me to run into disaster and to speak truth to power. So I became a presidential management fellow during 9/11 and served in President Bush's and President Obama's White House Office of Faith-Based and Community Initiatives. In my last position, I was a senior public health advisor in the Department of Health and Human Services, where I worked to protect the most vulnerable Americans. Then, in February, I was ruled unsuitable for the public's trust after making a routine medical disclosure. A couple months later, they annihilated my unit through illegal reduction in force action and then illegally defunded our programs, ending service to Americans experiencing homelessness, HIV, and mental illness simultaneously. Now I'm appealing these decisions, like thousands of my colleagues, before the Merit Service and Protection Board, a body that is being deliberately and lawlessly weakened, along with all sorts of workplace protections and watchdog's office that you've heard about today. Civil service protections are not perks. They are democracy's immune system, shielding government from political infection that public servants can uphold the law and the Constitution without fear of retaliation or retribution. Civil service protections don't protect bureaucrats. They protect you, the American people, from a government of coercion, cronies, and bullies. I have made a covenant with God to end the maltreatment of children. In an effort to keep that covenant, I made an oath almost exactly 25 years ago today. In that oath, I pledged to defend the Constitution against all enemies and ended it with a plea for God's help. Russ Vought made his goal clear: to traumatize American workers, federal workforce. He's failed. He's just made us angry. We're standing up. What he has done, though, is make Trump really unpopular by traumatizing America, forcing us to worry about our health care and our Social Security, our economic productivity, the stability of our institutions, our standing in the world, and increasingly a government that's being weaponized against us. Science tells us that trauma is not just emotional. It rewrites our brains, damages our immune systems, even cuts our lives short. The CDC's Adverse Childhood Experiences study revealed that that there is a dose relationship between the amount of trauma a child endures and the risk of mental illness, cardiovascular disease, cancer, and even early death. Addressing the endemics of suicide, violence, including child sexual abuse, untreated mental illness, and addiction was the work of my unit, and now is no longer. Remember, we all hold these truths to be self-evident, that we're all created equal, that we are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their powers from the consent of the people. Whenever government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right of the people to alter it. If Congress doesn't stand up now and defend our democracy, we're going to lose it. It's slipping away. We are standing here warning you. We're federal workers, and we know what goes on inside these buildings. The U.S. government is a behemoth, and it's confusing. But I can tell you this. I used to work for the American people, and now it's just being used to enrich billionaires and hurt us. Let's stand together up against this bully. Remember, we have nothing to fear but fear itself. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was our last speaker, and before we end today, there are a variety of federal worker organizations working to support federal workers in this moment, and thank you. We will have one person speak about that right now. Anna, can you join us?
Hi, I'm Anna. I'm a former probationary employee from the National Institutes of Health. So I just wanted to bring attention to a number of efforts, like Mark had said. We have a sign with some more information, but there is the Fed Solidarity Fund, which will be offering support to feds in the DMV area in the case of a shutdown. We have a sheet with a number of resources that will be populating with more and more resources if they're in the case of a shutdown. Thank you. And then we also, 27 United and NIH Alumni Action Network is going to be doing a food drive, whether there's a shutdown or not, for former federal workers on October 11th and communities that would be impacted by a shutdown. And also just keep in mind other organizations that are fighting to protect Americans every day, like Friends of USAID and a number of others. And so, yeah, thanks.
So before we close, I'm Ashley Wilder-Smith, and I am a federal employee. I've been employed by the federal government for the last 23 years. When you become a full-time employee, you do swear an oath, and that oath is to the Constitution. And what we'd like to do today is repeat that oath, much like we repeat the commitment that we make all the time as public servants. What does that mean? We serve the public, and we do so because of that commitment. So as a result of that, we'd like to, as federal workers, swear this oath again. It is the same oath taken by the president upon assuming office. For many of us, it is a remarkable moment and the beginning of a lifelong dedication to the people of our country. So please join us, should you know the words, because I'm going to read them for you first. Arms up. I, Ashley Wilder-Smith, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States. Against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same. That I take this obligation freely. Without any mental reservation. Of purpose of evasion. And that I will well and faithfully discharge. The duties of the office on which I am about to enter. So help me God. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone, for being here today. And let's get a final round of applause for all the amazing federal workers and every American who is here today to stand with us. Thank you.